Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
Welcome to this week's MMA Mental podcast, which is sponsored by UK Fightwear. I've got two great interviews lined up for you this week. I've interviewed two guests which I've already done, and I'll play those interviews for you. But before I let you know who those are, I just want to give some shout outs to the other shows and podcasts that we're proud to be associated with, and some of the stuff that we've got going on at the minute, and also let you know about a contest we've got going on with our sponsors UK Fightwear. So I want to shout at the podcast. I want to shout out our MMApodcast.com, Word on the Street, the UFC Game Roundtable, which includes UFC middleweight Luke Barnett, the Early Stoppage, and the MMA Roundtable, which is a collaboration of all the shows together. Also check out at MMA Mental on Twitter, the MMA Addiction on Facebook, MMAmental.com on Facebook page, UFC Games Facebook page as well. We've got a contest going at the minute with UK Fightwear, where if you follow at UKFW and follow at MMA Mental and tweet to us both, hashtag Real Deal, hashtag UKMMA, you'll be put into a draw to win some signed Ross Pearson walkout tee and poster. So it's definitely worth following us and entering into that competition. Okay, the two guests we've got lined up for this week then. First up, we've got a mixed martial arts cutman. He's the first cutman we've had on the show. He works out in the US. He works with such promotions as RFA and XFC. There's other promotions in there, but both RFA and XFC are both major promotions that are on mainstream TV, on Access TV in the US. And he gives us some good inside information on the life of a cutman. Lets us know what kind of qualifications you need, which was quite surprising that the qualifications are not what you'd think. But it's certainly interesting to get inside his mind and find out what he's doing and the way he'd like to change the role of cutman as well, which was interesting. And then next up, then we move over to BAMMA 13, which is coming up September 14th in Birmingham. We've got a fighter on who's been on the show twice before. He's currently 3-0 in BAMMA, and he'll be fighting for the BAMMA Welterweight Title, and that's Judo Jimmy Wallhead. Always great to have him on the show. So hopefully you enjoyed both those interviews.
I am now joined by MMA Cutman David Maldonado, one of the men who's got one of the biggest reputations and best reputations in the business. David, thank you for joining me today.
Great to be on. Thanks for having me, Ray.
My pleasure. I was looking forward to getting you on and having a chat and trying to get inside the minds of somebody who's obviously involved in a big part of the sport, but a different part of the sport to what I'm used to interacting with. So, obviously, I want to talk to you a little bit about what you do and about the promotions you work with. But before I do that, I want to get a little bit of your background. So, pre-MMA, what did you do? What did you do before you got involved with mixed martial arts?
Well, I definitely like to take the stance and make sure it's clear that I'm fairly unique from any other cutman that is out there in the country and the world. Whatever country might be listening, there's probably not a cutman like myself that's out there, and the reason is exactly that, my background. I'm formally trained, which is different from anyone who is out there, where I have my doctorate in physical therapy. I'm a sports physical therapist, physio, as you guys might know me. I'm a certified athletic trainer, which can be something I can explain greater if anyone has any confusion, but both of those are the hallmarks of my background and my expertise, so those tie hand in hand with how I use them in MMA as a cutman. But what I did previously is, quite honestly, I was a fan. I was a fan watching pay-per-views just like anyone else was, but from my standpoint, with kind of a detailed mind like I have, I'm always watching anyone that's around me, whether it be someone cutting the grass, and I'm watching how they do it and how they can maybe teach me something or something like that, a cook or a chef, you name it. I'm always looking around to see how people do things that do things well. And what I just simply noticed as a fan was I was seeing mistakes happening on TV. I was seeing errors in judgment happening, and I wasn't familiar with the sport to that detailed a level, but I just knew from a sports medicine standpoint, I don't know who taught them, but they needed some improvement. And so I started inquiring and just trying to figure out, even had a conversation with one of them after a show I attended, and realized there's no training, there's no formality, there's pretty much just an internal link of networking that gets people where they are, and I realized I need to pursue this a little bit further. And so I moved a little bit in the country in the U.S. and landed in a spot where I just sat in a gym for a while, made some friends, and let them realize that I wasn't harmful. I wasn't trying to sell anybody anything. And pretty soon I had developed a little bit of a reputation that I was the guy you could go to when you wanted an injury evaluated. And pretty soon I started tying in with a few local shows just to simply volunteer and help out. And things just really blossomed from there. And since then I've been working across the country and hopefully beyond soon, just giving the sport my expertise and skills.
I want to pick up on two things you mentioned there. The first thing is, you talk there about your background and what stands you out, what makes you different is because of obviously your medical background. I've always assumed that a cutman has to have a medical background. Is that not the case then?
It's very much not the case. To be a cutman in MMA, depending on the state you're in or the country you're in, you need, for the most part, a check for whatever amount they need for the license, $20, $50, however many amount of money that would be, and maybe a driver's license to identify yourself. Other than that, off you go. There's absolutely no criteria. In some states, they make you sign and acknowledge that I am aware of anatomy and physiology principles and yada, yada, yada. And if you simply check the box, then there you go. You're good to go. There's no testing. There's no equivalency exam, no background check of classes you've taken or any kind of certifications you have. There is absolutely nothing that separates a cutman from a fighter in their corner, from a manager, anyone like that. And to me, that's the best thing to try and point out is that hopefully the people you're seeing most often on TV are people who have at least done it many times, but they simply learned the trade from some other guy who had no more training than they did, but just maybe a little bit of experience. And so there's still many gaps in experience and knowledge that keeps them from being able to offer the sport as much as I can. So hopefully when people hear that, they're a little bit disturbed by the quality of care that these fighters are getting, and hopefully they don't make mistakes. In my case, many times I'm seeing events where I just close my eyes thinking, oh no, poor guy, he's embarrassing himself for anybody that knows what to look for. For people that don't, they just say, oh, that was a bloody mess. Who could have done any better? When in fact, they could have maybe done a completely more improved job if they just had a better understanding of anatomy, of medical skills, things like that. So it's absolutely a grassroots battle I am fighting to try and educate boxing commissions, MMA, and just fans and fighters as well, so they realize there is something more than the standard that you're used to that's available out there.
I have to be honest, I'm absolutely shocked. I honestly thought, and now this is just me being naive, and like you said about being a fan, that's what I am. I am a fan. I honestly thought, or I always assumed, that if you're in there stitching somebody up, then you were trained to do it. I'm really, really surprised at that. The other thing I wanted to pick up on was you said you were a certified athletic trainer. Now, for somebody like me, and there's probably other people out there as well, can you explain to me what that is, please?
Absolutely. The best way to think of it is going to be simply to go outside the world of the cage and the sport itself. Let's just look at the most recent Olympics. Someone picked their favorite sport, whatever that might be. Maybe it was soccer, maybe it was downhill skiing, maybe it was the speed skating, or any other event that you think out there. When a athlete in that sport, or the Super Bowl, whatever event it might be, when one of those people get hurt, there is a first person or a group of people that run out there. Those people that run out there are certified athletic trainers. They're usually not physicians. They're certified athletic trainers. They're trained in sports medicine to be able to diagnose and treat initial injuries, do rehab, and things like that. So it's like a doctor, like a EMT or paramedic. It's like a couple other professions similar, but it's the person that's on the sideline at sporting events. And so for me, my day job is I work at a university as that exact role. So I'm working with college athletes, university athletes, taping their ankles, doing rehab on their knees, bandaging up their injuries and their scratches and their bumps. So that training is an absolute perfect transition to taping hands for a fighter, bandaging up a cut on someone's eye and that kind of thing, except I have to do it in a faster manner when I'm in the cage under the lights.
Obviously, then, with the certified athletic trainer, you've obviously done this away from MMA. So what other sports have you been involved with?
I have worked in Major League Baseball to a small aspect. I've worked in the National Football League with the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts out of the NFL in America here. I have worked in golf, believe it or not. I have worked in cheerleading, strange sports all the way across the board that I've interacted with. But the most significant ones have been American football, basketball, and soccer, or football as we would know it, the one with the feet, Premier League type of thing, but at the university level here in America. So those are the main sports that I've worked with and had the most years. I've done a little bit of experience with wrestling, which is a great transition to what MMA would have to do in terms of the job expectations, but primarily would be American football and basketball that is my strongest background.
Well, you getting involved in MMA then? Do you? Obviously, MMA is a lot of people have said this. It's the fastest growing sport in the world, and I think it's fair to say we've seen this sport spiral from when it first come about in 1993 to where we are now. It has gone massive. Is that one of the reasons why you wanted to get involved? Because you see so much potential in this sport, and you want to kind of give it the best service that this sport deserves.
Yeah, I certainly will not say that I'm one of the pioneers that came along in the 90s and that type of thing. It was certainly probably a solid decade later that I had even heard of the sport and followed along. I've been involved personally for about 4 to 5 years now in a direct hands-on manner. But really it was a scenario where I now certainly adhere to the growth of the sport and the benefit of it all. But when it came down to it, it was more of a scenario of I see a need that needs to be improved. Whether this sport has been around 100 years or will be around for 6 more months, either way, I want to improve on a situation that can obviously be drastically improved immediately. And so there's an analogy that someone said to me once before. It's maybe a poem or something like that of a little kid throwing a starfish into the ocean, and there's thousands of them littered across the shoreline. And someone says, why are you trying to save this one starfish when there's so many thousands out there? It really doesn't matter when you think about it. And he picks up the next starfish and throws it in the water and says, to that starfish, it mattered everything. And so in that same way, without being too poetic, all I wanted to do was simply lend my skills into a way that I could help fighters and help a sport. And however long it lasts, I'm along for the ride. And if it grows to be bigger than American football or Premier Soccer, well then great. I'm happy to be a part of the ride.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. I'm happy to be part of the ride as well. Obviously, different capacity to yourself, but it's just for me a great sport to be involved with and follow. Which promotions have you worked for then? Which events have you been to as a cutman?
Absolutely. Obviously been most active in the U.S., and I'm hoping to branch out and pass along my skills again to fighters worldwide. But anyone who's familiar with the satellite channel Access TV, where many of the large promotions take place in North America, I work consistently with XFC, which I know you have a relationship with, and that's how we touch base. I work with them consistently. I work with CFA out of Miami, Florida. They had some of the excitement with some different fighters of recent. Titan out of the Midwest in the U.S. RFA, which Ed Suarez and the group there are doing a great job. all four of them I work consistently and in a specific manner with them as their one and only cutman. And outside of that, Pro Elite, when it had a little bit of life in the past few years, I interacted with them a little bit. I'm trying to think if there's anyone I'm forgetting. Certainly there's a number of other promotions. I work about 35 to 40 shows a year, so I'm very active with that. But the ones that are most notable and that come to mind most quickly would be that handful.
Yeah, you mentioned there XFC, and obviously I have been lucky enough to work with XFC. They're a fantastic promotion, and they're really kind of moulding the way forward. And I think that shows again with them having somebody like yourself there working their fighters. And actually, one of my friends recently fought for RFAs, fought twice for RFA. Mike Biggie Rhodes, he's another chap that I've had a lot to do with. He's another hot prospect for the future. So certainly some recognisable names, not just in the US, but brands that are known worldwide as well. So moving forward then, what if you could change one thing then in your profession within MMA, what would you like to change?
Well, I admit it's a little bit utopian and hopeful, but it seems like a simple and reasonable scenario where, just like yourself, you and many other fans and people in the know were maybe shocked by the fact that there is no traditional training or evaluation of someone who does what I do. And to me, that's the biggest thing, is simply, this happened literally this week, where I was on Facebook and noticed somebody not too many states away from me suddenly decided, well, that did it. I'm going to be an official cutman, and I'm going to be licensed in these 6 states and all of that. And I just thought to myself, what is it about this weekend that suddenly made it seem that this gentleman was suddenly qualified to be an official cutman, whereas last week he wasn't? It just seems like someone who's just deciding, I want to try some vanilla ice cream. I think I'm going to go to the store and buy some. And my hope is that if a change could take place, that there would actually be a true examination of physical skills, a tryout process, so that the top promotions are actually filled by the best cutman and not those who are a friend of the promoter or a friend of another guy, that type of inner circle thing that happens in so many other professions. It would be that in the most simple way, I would love it if after working, someone used a set of criteria to hand me an evaluation sheet as I walked out of the cage and the event was over, to say I got an 8.7 out of 10 on what I've done, and here are 3 things that I could do better, and I have a running evaluation of myself, so that if I'm claiming to be one of the best in the country or the world, well, now I have a score or a set criteria based on objective findings that would determine that, instead of something more simple like, who am I standing next to, or what's the name of the promotion on my back. Those things really don't matter, and as you've been revealed today, it's a little bit frightening to think of who is in the hands of some really deeply invested promotions and fighters with important careers ahead of them. So me saying that obviously means that I'm more than willing to have my own skills tested. I'm not just talking the talk. I want myself to be a part of that, and I welcome that process. And I think, to me, it would help weed out, just like maybe the UFC uses the Ultimate Fighter show to weed out who's going to get the contract and that kind of thing. No reason it shouldn't happen for someone just as skilled in another way, such as a cutman.
I still can't get my head around the fact that you don't need any formal training. I just think that's ridiculous. Like you've said, I think it is ridiculous, because you are looking at somebody's career. If you don't fix a cut up properly and it opens up worse, it might be they'll never be able to fight again. I mean, as drastic as that sounds, that is the kind of thing that we're dealing with. If there was somebody who wanted to get involved in what you do, if wants to be a cutman, what would you advise them in the way to do it properly?
Well, usually when people ask that question and I give the answer, it usually comes with a thank you for your time, and they stop talking to me because it actually involves a little bit of an investment instead of something that maybe next week they can get started and really be doing it full time. So my personal view, based on my experiences, based on the educational process I've gone through and things like that, my thought would be to pursue a degree in athletic training, which is, again, one of the professions I have. We have that major in the U.S. here, and if someone were to walk away with that formalized training and have that degree, that is the most ideal transition to be what I am. And now, does that mean you're suddenly ready to dive in? No. Any sport. So a certified athletic trainer is built with skills, but to know a specific sport requires something more. And that's where the other angle is taken so often is someone will tell me, well, I used to fight, so I'm getting into being a cutman in MMA. And being a fighter, in my opinion, has nothing to do with it. If someone's taking a punch, then they have a lot of experience that will be helpful. But that has nothing to do with what blood vessel is bleeding, whether their orbit below their eye is broken or not, and what you would do differently. It's a completely different animal. So my belief would be to get any of the following: a degree in athletic training. If not that, and they're not going to go to medical school or something like that, then a step below, at least pursue the path of being an EMT, build that to a paramedic, get advanced sports medicine training with even a few classes you can find at a local college that doesn't lead you to a degree. At least you get some of that formalized training of evaluating facial injuries and different things like that, how to determine whether someone has a concussion, what are the symptoms, because guess what? When I go into a cage and help a fighter, the doctor is most typically sitting outside the cage counting on my impression of the fighter. And if I see that there's something of concern, I'm saving a fighter's career by picking that up and acknowledging the physician to come in and determine for himself. So working hand in hand like that is something that's missing in the sport and should be a more integral part of things. So that's my recommendation. And again, usually people aren't willing to maybe take thorough of a step, but I feel like they're saying that because few others, and really no others in the industry, have gone that far. Most of them have a high school diploma or less, so their role model are those people. And I think that the sport will never grow to a more respected level until we have those higher expectations.
I think what you're saying makes perfect sense. If you want to do anything medically, you've got to have the training. And I said to you before, I say it again, I still can't get my head around the fact that you don't need any formal training. It just sounds absolutely ridiculous. I want to say it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. I was really looking forward to getting a chance to speak to you and kind of get inside your mind and get your outlook on things. Before we let you go, I just want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs. If there's anyone you want to thank, I know you've got your own website. Let us know about your website and your address, Facebook, Twitter, anything like that.
First of all, I want to thank you, Ray, for the opportunity. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to the same. For me, I have a website, CompleteCutman.com, which hopefully speaks to all the things that I've been talking about, tells you about me, a little bit more of my background, keeps you updated on my schedule, all of those kind of things. On Twitter, I can be found with the same name, @CompleteCutman. I can be found on Facebook or any of those other options if people have questions to address me directly. And then otherwise, the number of people to thank is numerous because I did not get to where I was without the help of people in the industry. But I do have a sponsor of Throat Punch Fightwear, and they've been essential to me continuing to get opportunities to help people in the industry. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank the many promoters that have taken the chance to see what I can do and get the chance to support and protect their investment, which is their promotion. And each of those I'm eternally grateful for the chance to work with them. So The list is certainly long, but those are the first names that certainly come to my mind, and I again appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show, so thank you very much for your time.
Thank you as well.
Okay, we're now joined by BAMMA 13's Judo Jimmy Wallhead, who will be fighting for the welterweight title in September in Birmingham against Eddy Ellis. Jimmy, thank you for joining us today.
No worries, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Okay, we talked after your last fight because you had a fantastic performance against Matt Veach. I know when we talked before, you had the hand injury. How's your hand coming along?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say now it's probably 95%. You know what I mean? It's nearly spot on. You know, a few weeks ago I was sparring hard and I caught it a little bit twangy, but nothing too dramatic. But now I'm I had a few hard spars and it's feeling almost spot on, mate. So by the time the fight's here in 10 weeks, there'll be no problems at all.
And how are you feeling yourself? It was obviously a big win. You've signed a big deal with BAMMA, and now this fight, of course, is going to be for the title. How do you feel in yourself?
Mate, I'm super happy, man. Since I had my first BAMMA fight with Trigg, like whatever it was, 2 years ago, you know, when I went to BAMMA, that's why, you know, I went to BAMMA and started fighting on BAMMA. I wanted to be their champion, and to go 3-0 in the promotion and now get, you know, the title shot that I've been dreaming about for 2 years, really. You know, it's the goal I've been chasing. So to now have the opportunity to achieve my goal, I'm very excited and really happy and privileged to be given the shot. You know,
it's mad. You say there about going 3-0, but I think you can't undervalue that 3-0 because the people you've fought in that 3-0, they're all big American fighters. You know, you talk about Frank Trigg. Obviously, everyone knows who Frank Trigg is. Joey Villasenor, and of course Matt Veach. And obviously now again you're facing Eddy Ellis, who a lot of people will know from The Ultimate Fighter. I mean, he had a good show and he won his fight to get into the house, and he had a very exciting fight, which I think it might have even won fight of the season. So it's another tough fight, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think he's a very dangerous opponent. You know, I'm not going to lie. When I got offered the fight, I didn't know who Eddy was because I never really watched a lot of The Ultimate Fighters and stuff. So I was like, okay. And then I looked at his record, and his record, you know, isn't the greatest on paper, 18 and 15, but the man's 10 and 1 in the last 7 years. You know, he started fighting as a pro at 16. You know, lost 6 out of his first 7. You know, that's why he hasn't got the prettiest record. Well, the guy's very, very dangerous, very experienced. And I've watched a lot of footage, and without a doubt, man, he's a tougher fighter, a lot tougher than Veach and the other guys as well. He's very hungry, and I know he wants it. So I'm taking this fight as I'm fighting one of the best guys in the world. I think he genuinely is a very dangerous fight.
Well, I think the thing that jumps out to me is you're very explosive as a fighter, and so is he. So to me, it's just going to be fireworks. It's going to be, to watch. It's going to be a very exciting fight to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I mean, obviously, you're fighting in Birmingham as well, which I believe is quite close to where you live. How do you feel about fighting? It'll be pretty much in front of your hometown fans. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, man, brilliant. You know, I love the support of all the people that come and watch me. So, Birmingham is where I fought Trigg. So I'm going back to where I made my BAMMA debut. So it's good to go back to there. I'm sure there'll be a big crowd there. And obviously when I fought Joey, that was in Nottingham. That's a little bit closer. I sold a few more tickets and a bit more support for Nottingham. But, the hype around the area and around friends and family and stuff about the fight and it only being just down the road, I know there's going to be a massive crowd there to support me. So, looking forward to it, man. Relishing it. And, hopefully on the night they get behind me and, push me through when I know there's going to be... it's going to be hard times in the fight, I'm sure, and to have the crowd behind me is definitely going to give me the power and the strength to dig deep and push through, definitely. Yeah,
I think it's not the be-all and end-all, but it's always nice to have the crowd on your side, and it definitely will push you through the tougher spots. Obviously, we're quite a few weeks out from the fight. I mean, the fight is in September. So what have you been doing with regards to your training, and when do you start looking to pick it up? And because, like you said, like we've talked before with other people, you don't want to do too much and burn yourself out. So what's your plan or your routine with your training at this stage of?
After the Veach fight, like I said, I broke my hand, so I had like 6 weeks of literally just jabbing, doing loads of kicking, and not much else really, a bit of like cardio work and stuff. And then, as my hand started getting better, I started adding the pads back in and stuff, and started back sparring very gently. as far as where I am now, 10 weeks out, I'm just sort of going through the motions a little bit. I set it up a couple of weeks ago. Had a couple of hard sparring sessions helping Andre Winner out for his fight he had at the weekend with Drew Fickett. So I stepped up a little bit there, but I'm just going to rope it back again for another couple of weeks, and then 8 weeks out, look to then work harder and step it up, and aim to peak, spot on for September 14th.
Right. It's good that you should mention Andre Winner, because we've talked about before about you train with some of the best people, not just in the UK but in the world. Andre Winner is one of those people, and of course he's recently been over to fight in the UK or the British Invasion GMC card and faced a very tough Drew Fickett and had a good win. What was it like helping him get ready for that fight?
Yeah, man, it was like a privilege, man. We're all there for each other as a team at Rough House, and I mean, at the minute, in my opinion, the Rough House is the best it's ever been. We've got such a great setup now. We've got coaches for every single range. Full-time premises. New guys coming through. Sessions the main session on a Tuesday and Thursday. It's like 14 to 20 guys there. We're going from strength to strength, and it's been great helping Dre prepare, and he's had a lot of help from everyone. And when it comes to my fight, I know everyone will be helping me out, and just a real pleasure to be part of the team right now.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's one of the things that obviously not just you but you and your team have benefited from, is that you're always there for each other. Of course, we've seen a few years have real big success on the international stage as well as the national stage. So I think one of the other things with BAMMA as well, of course, when you're fighting for a promotion like BAMMA, is obviously you're getting the big crowds and you're also getting the televised. It's televised as well. Does that add to the pressure, or does that just something that you thrive on?
Mate, in all honesty, maybe like sitting here now, if you really start to think about it, it's quite daunting. But the 3 times I've fought on BAMMA, knowing obviously more TV and the support in the crowd, it brings out the best in me. Do you know what I mean? I thrive on it, mate. Absolutely thrive on it. I look forward to it, and obviously, everyone gets nerves and stuff. They'd be lying if they say they didn't. But when it comes down to it and I walk out on that fight night, every experience I've had with BAMMA has been, they've been the best 3 experiences in my career, and I can't go on, mate. It's superb. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Well, if you're saying it brings the best out of you, you can see that's the case with your 3 BAMMA wins, because you've looked like an absolute, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, you look like an absolute beast in those 3 fights. Well,
cheers, man.
Well, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. I'm going to be in the crowd at BAMMA, so I'll be cheering you on. I'm really looking forward to the event. It's just up the road from me, but I'll be definitely there cheering you on. Before we let you go, just give you a chance to any shout-outs. Let people know about your Facebook, your Twitter. If you've got any sponsors you want to shout out, anyone you want to thank, you can do that now.
You know what? I usually write a list. I've got that many. Just without cutting everyone out, I'm not going to name everyone individually, but everyone who's part of my team, from my mentor Matt Walton to my nutritionist Ben, and all my coaches, everyone in the team. My main sponsors, QAV, Almighty Fightwear, CSS Security, Multipower Nutrition. They're my main sponsors. I've got a lot of other sponsors as well, and I'm just going to leave there because I'll forget someone. And I just want to say thanks for more support. I've got a big team behind me, and I'm very lucky, and I appreciate all their support.
Well, I really appreciate you giving me your time today. Thank you for coming back onto the show again. I look forward to getting you on again in the near future.
No worries, man. Pleasure. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Okay, that was this week's show. I hope you enjoyed listening to those 2 interviews. I know this week's show was a bit shorter than normal. But I've got just a reminder again of the contest, and I'll let you know who we've got on next week's show. I've got another big interview, at least one big interview lined up. I'll obviously try and line some more up, but we've got a big interview lined up already. So we've got the Twitter contest running at the minute with UK Fightwear. So you need to follow at UKFW, which is UK Fightwear, and then follow at MMA Mental, and then tweet to both of us, #RealDeal, #UKMMA. And you can win some Ross Pearson memorabilia, including a signed t-shirt, signed walkout t-shirt, and a poster that he's kindly signed for us and sent to us as well. So next week's show, then, 1 guest lined up so far. I'll work on more, but we've got a UFC commentator on next week, which I'm very excited about. So we'll be speaking to John Anik next week. So definitely tune in and listen to next week's show. Thank you.